All right, welcome back to the Veterans Club podcast. This is Jeffrey Rosales today, your host, alongside my co-host, the ever miss amazing Lakeisha Mosley, a fellow veteran here. Today, we're going to be talking about handouts, not handshakes, not handouts, ladies and gentlemen. What do I mean by that? Veterans are so capable of so many things. They just need access to opportunities here. There's a lot going on in the world. Inflation is happening. But the veteran community stays strong and resilient, and they can be the way to help America grow economically. So I'm very excited for today's guest because I'll tell you what, his background is fantastic. Not to mention he's a fellow Devil Dog, right? So I'm boasting a little bit, but the man served in the Gulf War, and he took the Marine Corps from paperless to digital. And that was a very critical moment in his life where he applied those skills after the service into entrepreneurship. So now he is a serial entrepreneur, and he wants vets to understand just how easy it is to get access to those opportunities based on the language, the mindset, and those skills you learned in the military. Albert Renteria, welcome to the Veterans Club.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it, man. Like I was telling you before, man, those Hollywood movie trailers that I was promoting on LinkedIn, man, I thought you were a Hollywood director at first because I was like, these are some of the most professional videos that I have ever seen, right? And I just want to thank you and give a kudos to you for all the great things that you're doing with your organization. But first, let's start where it matters. Where did you grow up? What was your background like? Tell us a little bit about that, Albert.
Well, I believe 1% me, 99% you. So here's my 1%. If I had not enlisted in the Marine Corps from Chicago streets, I would not have reached age 18. So I'm on borrowed time, and I know what to do with this borrowed time. So that's enough about me. Let's talk about everybody else.
Right on. From Chicago, growing up. Okay, tell me about why you grew up in the Marine Corps.
Well, we were talking earlier before we got on the show about suicides. My uncle was in the Marine Corps, went to Vietnam, came back to San Diego and Sardinia, went to TJ with friends. And if you watch some of the movies, Russian roulette was really the going thing. He played that with a bullet with his name, full stop. So the influence of what I do is what you inspire me to do. You know, whatever I create is not my idea, it's yours. I just know how to deliver it.
So real quick, I just want to expand a little bit about that, right? So I was reading your background, your bio. You said that entrepreneurship was something that you first encountered when you signed your first contract on the Yellow Footprints, right out of Chicago. But then you applied that to achieve one of the highest ranks in the Marine Corps, you know, Chief Warrant Officer 4. Not everybody can make it to one of the highest ranks ever, at least in the Chief Warrant Officer category, right? So I'm sure it took a lot of effort on your part, but you probably had some mentors and advisors that guided you along the way, right? Do you want to share a little bit about some of those mentors that helped you in the Marine Corps?
Well, since you want to do another percent, that's 2% about me, so we'll keep it short, okay? I was raised in the streets of Chicago. There's nothing I did not know how to do. So I had an option: stay in the streets, don't reach the age of 18, or leverage what I've learned in such a short period of time and apply that. So when I enlisted, my brother was already in the Marine Corps, and he told me, you know, Albert, think about learning the ropes and what streams to pull. So I applied that, as simple as it is. And when I did my training, you know, I thought about that. I took tests like we all took. And this thing about that I really want to emphasize: when I took the test, I got 100%. When I took the final, I answered the same way, and I got a 90%, and it pushed me on the top 10 to get promoted. So I had to find the courage, say, "Hey, boss, why did you drop me 4 points? You know, it took me out of the running." And he goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I go, "Look at test A, compare to test B. Which one should I get points on?" So they reverted my test B to test A, and I got in the top 10 and got promoted. So that's learning the ropes. As you were explaining to before the live show, it's no one's listening. It's complicated. The reason it's complicated because we don't pick up the book and read it. Technology is at your fingertip. I don't have time to shave. I'm on technology 24/7, learning what I don't know. And every morning I wake up, guess what? I got to learn. but I got to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So it's that simple. But if we get stuck on challenges or adversity, Streets of Chicago was truly an adverse environment. I was there in the riots of Chicago during the convention time, and my whole street was shut down like a war zone. So those are the things I brought to the table, realizing, let's see what the Marine Corps has to offer. But I leveraged 17 years of my childhood to apply. My mentors was everybody that said I couldn't do it.
That is so powerful right there because again, like we were sharing before, in the backstage, I'm from Fresno, California, right? Blue collar background. I was actually involved in not actually doing it, but I was in the middle of a drive-by, and if it wasn't for a liquor store, one of those bullets would have hit me, right? So I was already exposed to what I was going to get exposed to in Iraq and Afghanistan already in Fresno, right? But those were moments that were really formative for me, Albert, because it taught me resiliency, like it taught yourself. It taught you how to be resourceful. I think people that come from blue collar backgrounds or rough neighborhoods are some of the most resourceful people that I have ever met, right? And we have this desire to learn. So you took those gifts, because I consider those as gifts, and you applied those in the Marine Corps to be able to achieve one of the highest ranks. But then also you took you took the Marine Corps from this the mail, physical mail, let's just say, if you will, right, from paper to digital. Like, tell us what was your thought process in that, man, because that's a Herculean effort, especially during the Gulf War. Like, what was your role as a part of that?
Well, it was just not me. It was a series of subject matter experts, and it was about realizing that deployed forces, who sends the grunt, the trigger puller, has an 18 per grunt service type called the logistical tail. So the idea was, when we went to the Gulf War, we deployed our reserve folks. And I was on the I-9 staff Corps back in 83, 86. And the framework then was train the reserves, go to war, you fall out, reserves go on their own. So during the Gulf War, we realized that tracking that was on what's called a flat file. If you're familiar with technology, a flat file is just data. You can't manipulate it, you can't pull out. So we recognized that the flat file needed to be changed into more ad hoc to pull out specifics. So post Gulf War, me and a bunch of other subject matters, the Marine Corps, the DoD realized we need to interface. One of the things that we realized during the Gulf War is branches of service who were task organized, Army goes to Marine Corps to the Navy, so forth. We had different flat files. They were not interfaced. So if we sent 10 service members to a task force, different branches, everybody had to count for those 10. So we went out, that was 20, not 10 on paper. And they got tasked again, the same 10. So now there's 30, not 10 on paper. So we realized that was a dangerous position to be in because we had to account for the footprint so we can replace them. So imagine if we accounted for 30 losses and we replaced 30 when we only need 10. The cost to America is 3 times the amount. So post Gulf War, there was an acknowledgement that we had to streamline that process. I was one of those folks that took that there because we did a case study. If you were in the service, as you recall, you have op tempo and purse tempo. Op tempo is out on the field 24/7. Purse tempo is making sure your medical, your dental, your annual reviews. That cost us a lot of time. So you had to leave your hooch, go to some admin office, open your record book, an hour to get there, an hour to wait, an hour to be seen, an hour back. That's 4 hours. So going from paper to paperless, streamline that to 30 minutes. You gained a lot of manpower, but technology was not free. So we had to do a compensatory reduction. We had to reduce the map footprint to buy technology. That's why deployability is less and less. When I retired, there's 25 million veterans. We're down to 18. By the year 2035, that 25 is going to be down by 70% with a 10% growth rate, recruiting. So instead of America servicing 25 million veterans, they're going to service 8 million. And that's really the topic of today. The veterans don't stop serving. They serve, but if we don't remind them the simplicity of that, then we are responsible for an economy we could change.
So real quick, I think that's very powerful because a couple things here. You streamlined a process, and that process, based on your legacy, people are still going to feel the impacts today. A lot of veterans and service members are going to be able to thank you for that process that you streamlined, Albert. So that says a lot about what you did, right? You worked with the team, you worked with subject matter experts to solve a problem, right? And I'll tell you what, I think government still needs more Alberts because I think they can always use a little more efficiency, if you know what I mean, right? I get
I'm
mail every
looking at
day.
two of them. Okay.
I'm just saying, and yeah. So I think the government can use a lot more Alberts today because we definitely could be a lot more efficient and focus on things that matter, right? Like veteran homelessness, veteran entrepreneurship, and a lot of things that we talked about today. But I want to pitch it over to Lakeisha here, and I'm going to bring in another fellow double dog shortly here for any questions in this first segment.
Absolutely. So one thing, Albert, I'm listening to your journey and how you went into the military and how you came out. So I feel that you had an
Oh,
edge.
who's that? There's a mirror into me there.
Yes, that is.
I'm not alone.
Just yourself. That is amazing, amazing, Joe. Okay, so my question will be real quick. So when you went through your journey of just going through and being in the military and then coming out, I feel that you had an edge. The resilience of you. So what is it that you learned in the military that you want to give to someone else that is, coming out, of the military? How would you be able to show them that they can actually thrive when they come out of the military and they can actually persevere just like you did?
Here was my approach. You got A team, B teams, and C teams. A teams and I don't need to connect. They're self-sufficient. B teams are getting there. The C team is not. I've always looked for the C team because they taught me the value of them. And I believe everybody's resilient if you give them the opportunity. And that's the missing equation is who deserves the opportunity? The guy with the degree that should learn how to read the book or the guy that doesn't even know what a degree is? So I tell everybody has a PhD, a plain high school diploma, okay? Apply that. Go back to your high school days or your dropout days. I dropped out of high school, okay? Going back a little bit of my 2% now is single parent, 8 siblings. My mother wanted me to go to Trinity. She paid for tuition. She couldn't afford it. I dropped out in 6 months. And I tried to get a job in Chicago, but I had long hair, super fine look, and nobody wanted to hire me. So I went back right about my age and graduated 2 years, and then went to scholarship, community college, right? And that didn't work for me. And then I realized I better join the Marine Corps, otherwise I'd not reach the age of 18. So it's really recognizing everybody has value. Everybody that doesn't think they have value, they're merely dormant. Let's nurture that dormancy. Let's harvest their skill set. And that's what drives me, is those that think that can't, but will, if you would give them that opportunity. That's in a nutshell.
This was perfect, Albert. Thank you so much for answering that. There's so many that are feeling like they have hope at that answer. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lakeisha. And I just want to double down on that because what Albert's talking about here is your mindset and the language, right? What we speak into the world comes back to us, veterans, whether it's good or bad. If you say the world sucks, then it's going to suck. But if you say the world is beautiful, it's great, it's hopeful, that changes something inside of you here. So what Albert's talking about is just a new language that we need to learn and a new mindset, right? So I think that's just very powerful here. But I want to pitch it. I want to pitch here to another bearded.
Let me interject real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm an introvert, truly introvert. And as I raised to the questions you asked, I heard the KISS rule: keep it simple, stupid. Well, guess who I thought I was? Stupid, right? So I said, I need to change that to keep it simply simple. And that's important because we're listening and we're too bashful, too embarrassed to bring up, who you are. And the KISS rule is keep it simply simple. But if you keep it simply stupid and you're not speaking up, you're going to feel stupid. So change it. And we changed it. So that's how easy it is. It's so easy to me. I just laugh.
Well, I love it, man, and I'm jealous of your beard here. Like I said, hopefully in a couple of years, I can grow my own veteran beard. A lot of veterans when they get out, man, that's the first thing.
Don't spend any time, Jamie.
Start now. I know.
Elsewhere and let the beard grow.
Start them, yeah. Get the whole veteran beard going. There's a couple career paths, but I think we got another bearded veteran here. He was also a fellow Devil Dog. I'm not gonna make him do push-ups right now or pull-ups since he's a little late, but it's okay. I'm gonna pass it over to my Joe P here, fellow Devil Dog. Hey Joe, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We actually, I had to. My daughter had a volleyball game this morning, so.
Brother, I'm kidding. I understand.
So, yeah,
I understand, brother. How you doing?
No excuse, but I was glad. I saw the message that I saw Lakeisha showed up, but I had already made arrangements to show up, so it just took me a little while. So.
Hey, Marie, there's no need to make excuses, man. Just go. Let's go.
Oh,
do
well,
it.
you know, Albert. What I love, and I actually was sharing this with the. I actually met yesterday with the wonderful woman, Ann Henderson. She does a veteran equine program, and also a special needs program. And I'm going to be talking about her later, but later in other options. But it's a testament to this whole thing, right? Is that all of us that are on the Veterans Club and people that seem to kind of get brought to us have this same synergy, right? And I say synergy because we're not all in the same business. We're not all in the same line of work, but synergistically, we all have the same mission. And what I was saying yesterday, and what's great about this club as well, is that we put mission before. So it's like, we'll complete the mission, and it doesn't, regardless of who's here, the mission's going to happen. If it's just going to be me by myself, if it's just by himself, if it's a group, the important thing is that we get to amplify veteran voices like yourself and anyone else that comes on. So that's kind of like what I love about this club and what we've been doing. So, but again, thank you. And the beard looks great, my friend. I am not too far behind. I noticed that my wisdom is starting to come out and express itself in gray. That's how I'm looking at it.
It's only effective, Joe, if Jeffrey has one tomorrow. Okay. Otherwise, we failed him.
I'll probably have a 5 o'clock shadow by the end of today. So just give me until the end of today, and then maybe tomorrow I can start getting a little scrubbing.
So I have to share this with you about the beard, guys. So initially it started because me and my buddy Max were gonna swap, and I was gonna start really taking a little lead on our Maxwell soaps on his business. This is actually his face on the soap. I don't know if you guys ever noticed that, but he goes, dude, it's cool. Just grow a beard, some dark glasses. We'll all look the same. He goes, we could have an army of Maxwell soap guys because we'll all have the beard. So it's kind of a cool thing. So the beard was kind of just like a trial, but now every time I mention to the family, I think I'm going to get rid of the beard. They're like, no. Everybody loves the beard now. So I think it grows on you.
Well, yeah, there you go. Got that, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I think the veteran beard is just something like a rite of passage, man. Like I see a lot of veterans, they get out, man. The first thing they talk about is growing their beard. So and you see it, right? Hopefully Maxwell Soaps has a bearded logo of Joe or Max on there on your soap here. But let's kind of go back in real quick to some of the things we want to talk about. So Albert, when we're talking about transition, right? Since we're talking about language, we're talking about adjustments and mindsets. What were some of the things that were going in your head as you were getting out of the Marine Corps? Like, did you face any challenges? Did you have any mentors? Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, before I retired, I was privileged of traveling the world to implement paper to paperless. We had to go there every installation, talk to the commanding general staff and say, hey, look, this is the transition. Remember, every branch is a rifleman, primarily the Marine Corps. We're all riflemen. So the generals didn't really care about the logistical tail reduction because if they reduce on the scale, that's less riflemen. So we had to introduce a lot of different things. So that was introduced in Japan when I was made aware of legislation, Public Law 106-50, legislated August 17, 1999. And if you haven't read it, definitely pursue it because you're not going to get answers from me today because read it first and ask questions second, right? So anyways, I prompted to submit my retirement when I was out there, April 1st, 2000, intentionally, okay? April Fool's Day, and service never ends for a Marine. So the logic is, according to your question, is that I have any issues to transition. I would have if I ignored what was available to me. because I sought what was available to me and didn't blame nobody for what I didn't know, I made an earnest effort to learn and develop my exit strategy. And every service member, that's why they changed the recruiting stations to training centers, okay? Because you learn, and the study of entrepreneurship by the SBA suggests that when they ask the question, what makes a veteran entrepreneur? It's not just service training, but the fact that you signed a contract with the government to render services under their terms. Entrepreneur is about a signed agreement to you and a consumer, in this case, DOD. So we sold our services, and when you put that narrative around there, every veteran's an entrepreneur. Anybody that signs a contract, we are an entrepreneur when you were a kid, sold Kool-Aid at the corner or sold your bike. So when you apply your experience, and the question is, did you ever trade or sell? And the answer is no. Well, yeah, no entrepreneur spirit. But if you say, I did, that's the seed planted, and what you do next is totally up to you. Here's how I test folks I talk to. I'm going to ask the 3 questions, and just give me the answer right off the top of your head. How do you put an elephant in the refrigerator? I may have always asked you, Jeffrey, in the past, but how do you put an elephant in the refrigerator? Who wants to answer first, quickly?
One bite at a time.
Second? Agree, disagree? Can you guys hear my questions? I'm looking for the 2 other answers.
I guess we have a little shy audience here, but I will speak up for them. So again, I don't know how to put an elephant into a fridge, but I can like I'm saying, you can probably just put it one bite at a time here. That's it, right?
And there's no right or wrong answer, but it emphasizes being programmed. You're programmed to see a small refrigerator. You're programmed to see a huge elephant. I'm sure you guys have been to Costco. First question, why would you want to do that, right? But second, you walk it in. The moment you cut it to pieces, that's resources, time, and energy. And why would you do that? So my follow-up to that question is, this is how easy it is. It's as easy as putting an elephant into the refrigerator, okay? That's life every day. That's business every day, because it's about moving something. It's about logistics. And if you don't understand logistics, it's because you don't understand the elephant questions. But that's the paradigm shift. Just like the KISS rule, the paradigm shift. So everything we have access to is there with a click from your phone. When I bought my first PC computer, 20 megabyte drive, boy, I was excited. 20 megabyte, mind you. When in the Marine Corps, when you ask for a roster, you do a request, you see it 2 months later. Now you get it in 10 seconds, and 12 seconds is too long, okay? So how you leverage your time and moment is key. How do you appreciate what you do with your time is essential. Joe, his priority, his mission was not on the show. He had somewhere to go. Great, he's not late. His time was now. And I thank you for that, okay? Because we need to change the narrative that we shouldn't try to please something that does not benefit others. My point is, if I make a decision, I must not be the beneficiary. Others have to. Joe's beneficiary was his family. So it was not him. Yeah, he comes here and you give him a hard time, but that's why he's 75 hard, okay? So he has 74 other moments to say it's a true statement, okay? So let's give him a hard time further so we can hit that 75, okay? That's how easy life is.
No, I love it, man. I love your philosophy here. I think it's phenomenal. And Joe knows we give each other a hard time here. We all love each other. It's a veteran thing, but I like your approach here, Albert, because you say life is easy, and I do believe that as well, right? I do think when you get a little spiritual, or at least for me, you get a little spiritual, you look at things differently, and you seem like you have a different lens based on your past experiences, right? If you look at some of the nicest people in the world, Albert, the reason why they're nice today is because of all the stuff they went through. And they went through a healing process, and they got a lot of stuff out of their system, right? Now they're probably like a lot nicer is because, hey, I went through something, I don't want to cast judgment on anyone else, right? It's like when I see my brothers on the street, my sisters on the street, right? Like, I'm not going to cast judgment on them. I don't know what they've been through, right? I've been through a lot of stuff myself, right? And and the reason why I'm so big on like veteran homelessness is because that could be us, that could be me, right? But I'm choosing a different path, right? I'm choosing here to be around successful people like you guys yourself and find ways that we can build together and solve some of these problems that the society that we're seeing there today, right? Veteran homelessness. How do we get veterans off the streets, right? How do we get veterans to not take their lives, right? 150,000 veterans have taken their lives, ladies and gentlemen. That's more than the Gulf War.
You make me ask is it's really, I was in Alaska. I visited all 50 states and territories, been around the world a few times. And when I went to Alaska, and I went to go meet veterans, that was my intention. So I met this group, coffee shop, and a lot of veterans. He's telling this story, and it made me laugh. But he understood that you have to leverage what you know. So he's veterans go with a cup of coffee, go out with a sign, hit the streets and says, I'm a veteran, support homelessness. And he would get a shout back, hey, go get a job. So he flips the sign and said, this is my job, okay? So what you have to realize, homelessness is the result of us, the four of us here, not leveraging what we know to say to a veteran. I had my car at a body shop yesterday to make met a Army veteran. Says I applied for my VA. I want 100%. I won't settle for less. So I asked him, tell me your story. He goes, well, I enlisted in 2002, got in 2005, got medical discharge, shoulder, whole life. And he applied 3 times, rejected 3 times. He's on his 4th one appeal with VSO. So I says, well, did you appeal each time? He goes, no. I go, why not? Well, because he was too angry. So I go, when did you apply here? He says, last year. So it's in the system for disability. I go, if they reject you, what are you going to do? And he gave me all this explanation. I go, what are you going to do? So that's what A. He says, appeal. I go, they reject you a second time. What are you going to do? Appeal. Now I say this with authority because when I got out in 2000, I didn't know anything about this. And I came back overseas December. The sergeant major literally slapped me, right? And he's telling me, look, you got to do these things. And he was very, very convincing and he was very serious. I go, the post-service are for us, but we're not using them. So he said to go to the medic, report 26 years of injuries because I had maybe 5 pages and I added 6 more pages with issues of the past 26 years. Submit the claim, got 50%. But I didn't know all the issues. So 12 years later, I did a sleep study. Apnea, wear a mask every day. And I submitted a claim and got rejected 3 times. I appealed 3 times. And I had statements and all the evidence in the world. And I requested to see a judge. Last year in September, I met the judge. And I go, I don't really care if you approve this, but I want to know why this process, what it's like, to tell you guys with authority how this works. So don't know if that influences the decision, but he says, here's what he sees, that the reviewing of VA was distracted by a statement I made, and they put weight on the distracted and not on the issue. So I learned, focus on the issue, make sure you eliminate distractors, because that'll offset the decision maker. So the other thing I expressed to him is I need to know what to tell everybody on how this process works. He approved it. And I got a back pay of $60-some thousand, okay? So this guy, Rob, I met yesterday. I go, don't look for it today. He said he wants to build his house. I go, do the VA, don't, make sure you appeal it. It may take 10 years, but now you got money to pay off your house or take care of the murders. So how do we get homeless off the streets? We need to remind them that when they seek their benefits, I'm not the beneficiary, but our community, our civilians. Because if I'm 70% and you're 100%, I get 18, you get 3,000. Tax-free, on top of what we make. We get to inject that money, federally funded, into our community. Now there's 18 million. I think in California, like 10% of that, 1.8 million. And maybe 20% are getting a VA rating income. So look at the deficit. When I talk to a veteran, I said, look, let's put your seat back on your back. Let's talk about what you can make a difference about. Different paradigm shift. More so, wow, I can do that? I go, but it's not going to be a simple trek. It's easier than hiking 20 miles, mind you, but it's a mental hike. And they resonate with that. And I've not met one veteran yet that doesn't convert. So we have to study our conversion rate. And who's responsible for that? You can say the government, but the government doesn't have the manpower. I'm looking at 4 manpower people. I'm looking at 18 million, nationally. So how we leverage that manpower is on this podcast. Because when you disseminate that this podcast is not for veterans, but our communities, it's a different narrative. Correct? We have over 350 million, and we're a fraction of that. Who's our real target? The veteran that says, I was in Chicago in 1980. Let me give this last story. Recruiting. And I love the Tribune cartoons. And there was a cartoon of a child. You've seen the whole cartoon, so you have to be disciplined and look at one slide at a time. So there's this kid, his eyes at a distance. And then the next one is he's all excited. And the next one, he's running. And the next one, he's getting tired. And the next one, he just stops. And then we see what he's looking at. He's looking at a carnivore at a distance. And he's saying, why is it taking me forever? And he looks down and he's running on ice. He looks back, he sees a pair of skates. End of story. He did not use the tools that he had access to, trying to get across the ice and never get there. You understand that visual?
I think that's pretty powerful, man. I'm tracking you and I'm following you, and I like how, again, going back to where we're talking about how resourceful he is going up in Chicago, is now you are applying a potential solution to solve veteran homelessness, which is, hey, let's make sure they get their VA claims right in the door, get them processed, and that could be a stepping stone to get them off the streets, right? And I think that's beautiful, right? And I think that's
let me revise that statement. Let's get them the doors, not to get them off the streets, but to get a civilian hired. You cannot hire a civilian without capital. And if we have access to capital and we opt not to get it, then that civilian that's homeless with us, who has a less survivability rate than we do, will suffer and die. We served in the military to extract civilians from harm's way. Any civilian out there that's homeless is in harm's way. And all of us, all 18 million of us, can extract them by injecting the economy with what we've earned, and that's a VA rating. Full stop. But if we put the emphasis on pulling a veteran out of the homeless environment and ignore the civilians, we need to rethink that. And the rethinking is because we have a huge benefit that we're not exercising, we're allowing for these civilians to be in harm's way. So when you give that veteran that's homeless this understanding and says, wow, I can make that change. Yes, we can. So this is how simple it is. But we live in the idea they shouldn't be out there. But I also know they learned to be out there, and the civilians with them were not, correct? And we can pull that civilian homeless person if we re-educate or revise the narrative. It is real easy, and I found that to be an easy conversion to anybody that feels they're stuck, and use the word stuck. And I'm saying they're not stuck, they're dormant.
That's beautiful here. I'm going to pass it over here to my co-hosts if they have any comments.
I truly agree, honestly, just as far as that's a perspective change. A lot of times our words and, are really creating our reality. And, it's an environment saying, oh, I don't have enough. I'm going to leave. I'm going to die. It's like those words is going on in our mental. And I feel that when we change it, we have a direct change, we're able to transition into what we deserve, and we can see clear. It's all about clarity. And honestly, what you were telling us as far as us transitioning out of the military, and even when we're going in, just having a perspective that we do belong and we do have resources. So thank you so much, Albert.
Well, let me add to that. When I retired, my youngest brother and his wife, pregnant wife, they had a 7-year-old child that was being babysat. Went to my sister's house in Chicago, and they leave and they go home, and my brother sees a homeless guy on the curb. He pulls off, asks his wife to give me some change. As she's looking at her purse, a car pulls up, and in Chicago, when a car pulls up, you know what probably may happen, and it happened. They shot him, one bullet killed him. Okay, and they caught the murderers. One happened to be a veteran, one happened not to be. And you got a homeless, and you got my brother. And I tell folks, his death was not in vain. He demonstrated what our last act ought to be, and that's to give. So when you look at death, and you look at different things, and that's totally, I'm on borrowed time, so I see a lot different than most. And during this borrowed time, every second of my day is a moment of opportunity. And what I failed to do in that moment is only on me. So when I see folks, I learn from them, and they inspire me. So when I see someone struggling, they're inspiring me to say what I've learned. What they do, what I share, is totally up to them. And I use a term called PI factor: pride, ignorance, and ego. I think when we understand that we're proudful and we have an ego, then it fuels ignorance. And when you fuel ignorance, you think about yourself and you make decisions for self-service versus having someone else benefit of what you can provide. And that's important to me. The beneficiary of everything I do must not be me. And I want to inject two people I met over on the other side of the world. IPEC. And I asked her to speak at the 13th Annual Veterans Summit to represent the next 50 years of my 100-year plan. I never met her either way other than through a connection. If you go to the website, you get to click her. She's the CEO for Twin Flames Angel. Another person, Aisha, who is a student out of Pakistan. Never met her, communicated. And she's a freelance writer for Executive Diaries. And she composed a digital diary narrative for me based on my work. Incredible people. But when you spread your seed of knowledge in hopes it'll get harvested, that's all it is what you do with the seed I give you. It's a matter of you nurturing. So I've never anybody that cannot succeed. Again, as I said earlier, it's important to me to find those that can't. That gives me an opportunity of inspiration to say, why not?
Joe, you got anything?
No, I just wanted to touch base back on the idea about being resourcefulness and problem solving. I think a lot of times we forget your analogy with the skate. It's one of the things that we've talked about before, and the way I look at it is that sometimes we forget that we don't need to drop our whole pack, that there are resources that we have instilled within us already as we've transitioned. But a lot of times we think, oh, I'm done with the military, I don't need anything. And it's like sometimes it might be subconscious, and it takes us a little while to recognize, oh wait, I had skills from that and I can utilize in the civilian world. For me, that's what I took from your skate analogy, was not necessarily the physical tools or resources that are external, but we forget to look at those resources and tools that were instilled within us through our service. There are things that you also talked about that reminded me of, like continuously improving situations. That is something that we did in the military just on habit, was to continuously pick up and improve what we just learned was not working. And somebody was telling me, like, I did one of those lean, it was like a lean program, like a continuous improvement. And it was taught by a gunnery sergeant, sniper gunnery sergeant taught this course. And he's like, we did this all the time in the military before I even realized that this is actually a super amazing training tool in continuous operations. People pay thousands of dollars to learn how to do this. And we teach our privates and lance corporals this in tool rooms, right? Shadow box everything, know how many steps it takes to do a process. We have it laid out, step 1, step 2, step 3. And then if you find a way to improve that, then you say, hey, well, I can do it if I can take out step 3 and 5, and it's now this, and this. So those are some of the things that you shared from your sharing that I picked up. And also like the idea that we can fix some of these issues. And I think we can. Like, what I've recognized is that so many people have been coming out of the woodwork, Albert, like, that are capable of helping solve problems that we have. And we've started this thing in the Veterans Club where, yeah, we'll highlight the issues, but we no longer think that it's a requirement for us to harp on the government to solve them. Like, and I think you said this earlier, and I don't know if anybody else picked up on it, but you were talking about us as a collective, veterans, and that we can step up a little more, that, you know, we don't recognize some of the things and the power that we're actually capable of fixing these things. Like, I look at some of the people that have come on this show and some of the people in the veteran empowerment area that are doing work, and it still amazes me that we still have problems for veterans transitioning. And I think this is kind of the way we do this. We amplify this vibration that let's just fix it, right? Let's use our businesses. Let's find the people, the businesses and organizations that are actually doing this kind of work. There are hundreds of organizations that are building tiny houses. We just need to power up. And I think this is how we do it.
Sharing. You inspire me, Joe, okay? I'm going to give you another hard time so we get you down to 73, okay? Problem is a good thing. It presents an opportunity. No problem, no opportunity. So the question is, what do you do with that opportunity? When I traveled a lot, I didn't read big books, but I pick up a Reader Digest and I look for little quotes. And I came across one when I was in Okinawa, and there was a quote by Alvin Toffler, author of Future Shock. And he says, the illiterate of the future are not those that cannot read or write, but those that cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So when you understand that quote, when a problem comes in, learn it, unlearn it, and relearn it, because the solution to it will be repetitive unless you unlearn it and do it differently. It's that easy. But it's a mindset, okay? So the simplicity, and I asked myself when I got out, what happens 6 months after you get out? You're a hero at home. Everybody loves you, hugs you, kisses you. And 6 months later, they got to go to work. And you're at the house bumming. And I say, go get a job. He goes, well, let me tell you, well, you're no longer in the military. So we have failed our transitioning service member to understand 6 months, expect this, go get your unemployment. And I emphasize unemployment. When you see veteran unemployment numbers, that's a good thing, because the only way those numbers are true is they went to got unemployment. Prior to authorizing someone that wanted to get out did not qualify for unemployment. They changed that law. Now they're qualified. So the pride of some service members, don't go get the unemployment, regardless of rank. So a lot of it is learning on learning the approaches we've had, but drilling down to the core and says, how does this process supposed to work in the first place? And if we're trying to help somebody and we don't know the processes, then we're that kid on the ice with no skates. We have the tools, the resources, we have this technology. I no longer use a PC. I use a phone. I can see Joe's talking from the phone because it's a vertical screen. The three of us are on a PC. So I acknowledge that. So Joe doesn't need a PC. He could be at Target in the bathroom for all that matter, because he could put a back screen however he sees fit. But that's how big our studio is. So when we think about making something better, let's learn, unlearn, and relearn. It's that easy. Where's that easy
Oh,
button?
yeah.
Who's got that?
It's the way, and you know what's great? It's almost identical to the way that we've been indoctrinated to learn by our service, right? It's we are definitely a this is a demonstration. I'm gonna repeat it. You're gonna repeat it, and then you're gonna replicate it. So it's like take it apart, you learn it, unlearn it, and then relearn it. No, absolutely, man.
The key thing I learned when I went to Desert Shield on the USS Essex, General Zinni was on the USS Boxer, and we were doing the Somali withdrawal. And as you all know, is we do an operational plan. Everybody has a color tag, right? This does that, that does this. And you train for 18 months. And you go at sea, and then you get closer to the ocean, and hit wet to dry. And General Zinni got on the PA on all the ships, and he goes, look, you guys know that op plan like the back of your hand. You're good at it. You've done good. You found your mistakes. But when you hit land and bullets start to fly, don't fall in love with your plan. Let the instincts of who you are make you survive. So plans are great. But when you study plans, you're probably the one that reads it because you author it. Everybody else goes by your lead. And if you're moving forward, that's the plan. If you're making differences, that's the plan, because they're going to emulate what you do. So this opportunity is we want people to emulate the four of us to say, the seed's out there, it's dormant, it happens to be a veteran. And the reason we need to get them out of dormancy because they can inject capital into the economy. And the reason for that is to get that civilian homeless guy out of harm's way. We cannot do it without the 18 million veterans that understand the landscape, navigates the landscape, and injects an economy into the community. It's that easy. But if we put a different narrative and make us the purpose, guess who we ignore? Those we serve and continue serving. And that happens to be 350, 60 million population of Americans. So imagine 18 million boosting the economy to serve 300 plus million people. Wow. Let's have a beer on that.
Yeah,
which means, Jeffrey, you don't have time to shave no more because we got a task ahead, okay?
Hey, Albert, I had one question to follow up on you because we always, a lot of people talk about exactly that, right? And veterans are good at this. If the plan goes to shit, we can pretty adapt and find a way as long as we knew what the commander's intent was. But that also falls into, and because we are veterans, and I think sometimes it's good to talk in those veteran terms because they bring back something nostalgic and it comes to sink in sometimes. When the plan goes to shit, what are your immediate action drills? Because that's the thing that always backed us up, right? I was an infantry guy, and lucky enough, I competed in a couple of super squad competitions, which is like it's like the Ranger thing that they do for the Army. But so the top squads compete within the Marine Corps. One of the squad leaders that I had during that competition, Sergeant Martin. One of the guys that was probably the most knowledgeable infantryman I've ever met. He used to say, your number one tool that you're going to keep are your immediate action drills, because that's the thing when the shit goes down, you're going to remember, turn face towards the fire and just let unleash hell, right? Like an ambush, like all these things. So for you, Albert, when your plans go to shit, what are your immediate action drills?
Joe, I'm going to go and give you some of my beer to accelerate your growth, okay? Listen, our intent, 18 million veterans' intent, is to extract civilians from harm's way. Full stop. Every homeless adult out there needs to be extracted by us. The plan is shit, okay? So the immediate action drill to say, we need to change the plan. Don't make it about us. Make it about them. And we need to recognize 1 out of 5 homeless adults are homeless. That one veteran has a higher survivability in the homeless environment, the other 4 civilians. But we seem to focus on the one. And the plan is the one. The plan's gone to shit, okay? So I love the intent, and I love the plan to shit, because the intent for me, for you, for every veteran out there, is to extract civilians from harm's way. True or false? And the current plan is shit, correct? Let's change the plan. And the plan starts here. The plan is so simple, it's ridiculous. But the moment we ignore the extraction of the 4 homeless adults in harm's way, the intent, and the plan focuses on the one, that plan ain't gonna work, ever. And I'll tell you why. A lot of organizations do sprout up. If you go to GuideStar.org and Google veteran, you're gonna see all these organizations that get some type of funding to support a veteran. If you add all that money, it may be $1 trillion. But we are still have a shitty plan, because the focus is, if all that money is being dispersed and we're ignoring the 4, the intent, and focus on the one, that's a blessing for these organizations, because they have a problem and their opportunity is to capitalize on that problem and not moving the plan towards its intent. And I know that for a fact, okay? And that's why I have this long beard, because I don't have time not to learn more. So when you recognize the current intent, and I want to make sure we're on the same page, our current intent is to extract civilians out of harm's way. Is that a true statement for us? But if we focus on the single veteran, what happens to the 4? Well, they get ignored. So the plan has to be shifted, because everybody that enlists is profile X. Regardless of what you do, you're not coming out profile X, you're coming out profile Y, because you incurred a service-connected injury, a service-connected injury deficit. And when you get out, or before you get out, identify what caused that change. And the law says if anything changed profile X, it's a service-connected injury. We call it disability, which I think is what shies a lot of folks, because they don't feel disabled. I felt the same way. But it's a service-connected injury, true or false. And if it's true, then you should apply for your benefit, because when you get approved, you're injecting funding into your local economy made possible by the federal government. Okay? So that's what I do, Joe. So the plan is shit, and I'm one guy. Now times, the 3 of you, we're 4 together. We're going to improve the execution, because the execution has always been the 4 of us. And it's not about the 4 of us. It just can't be. We should not be the beneficiaries of our efforts. It should be the 4 civilians in harm's way. And how do we get them out of there? We boost the economy with 18 million times 100% VA rating, which is $3,000 a head, plus if you got a family member. What's $3,000 a month times 18 million? Who's got that number in their head? It's a lot of change. Would we have homeless civilians? No. But we have to convert our veterans to recognize that the intent has not changed. Post-service, we're here to extract civilians from harm's way. We know that's our intent. But if we say, well, what about my brother to the left and what about my brother to the right? I trademark crossing the line together, because those brothers and sisters to the left and right have the same benefits I do. My value to them is guiding them on how easy this is. And one guy comes to me and says, it's so complicated. I went to the VA, they didn't really care, I had to go outside. The reason they appear not to care, because we don't have enough usage. There's not enough flight hours of the VA. I'll use a prime example. If a pilot doesn't fly in the Marine Corps for X hours, you're not going to get on that plane. He has to acquire some hours. Well, the VA can only get funded if we use it. Congress will not fund anything above maybe a 5% excess usage. So the only way VA can get more manpower is the 4 of us need to say the plan is a shit, it's not working, and what do we got to do different? Shift the focus. It's really that easy. And then study GuideStar.org and see who's all getting this funding. And the sad thing about funding is it's a touch rate. What does that mean? If I fund you $1,000 a head on a touch rate model, and I say I touched 100 people, or there's a touch rate of 100, forget the people factor, it's the same person touched 100 different times for 100 different reasons. One person times that funding. So when you study numbers like I do, is you realize it can't be a touch rate. You know, e-commerce is about touch rate, right? Clicks and so forth. I can click this 1,000 times and you think you got 1,000 clicks, but it's only one guy. And that's what prompted the paper to paperless post call for is, as I said earlier, when you deployed somebody in a flat file and everybody has to count to that guy in 10 different units because he's detached, you think you got 10 people, but it's one. So how do we understand technology? You know, I love your Moneta platform is consolidate, is don't repeat because the end user can think there's 10, but there's only one. You know, I look at American Idol and everybody votes, there's 10 million votes, but you can vote 10 times, right? So there's just a million people voting. So I look at that and I study that and said, okay, is that happening to us? And the answer is yes. Because if there's thousands of veterans getting on average, veteran groups or organizations that claim to be veteran groups, and they get $100,000 a year on average times 1,000 organizations, that's a chunk of change. And to your point, Joe, the plan is shit. But what are we doing about it? Today, we're going to make a difference because we have to study the conversion rate to see if we can reduce 4 homeless adults to 3, from 3 to 2. And the only way we can do that is inject money into the economy. And guess who owes the cars that money? The 4 of us. And those that we know. And we can complain, but it's on us. It's that easy. It's so easy, it's not.
No, I love it. I love what you're talking about because one of the things that Joe and I and Lakeisha always talk about from small businesses, how do we keep the economic benefits in our communities? As you know, Albert, 68% is only retained in the communities because a lot of times people are shopping at big box stores, right? And we want to find a way to say, how do we help a local veteran out or a local veteran-owned business, right? But I like this concept that you're talking about is, hey, veteran, it would be important for you to get your VA benefits because you can inject that back into your community and your family will benefit, right? And you're talking about generational wealth, right? We're talking about community building right here. And, oh, by the way, that's one less veteran on the street, and we can use that extra capital and apply it to hopefully help their civilian counterparts who may be homeless as well, right? That is a very creative, resourceful solution, and I'd love to explore more about it as we get ready to wind up here. But I do want to pitch it over to Lakeisha to see if she has one last question or comment before we wrap up. But I think you're very knowledgeable, Albert. I want to pick your brain. I wish I had like a little USB chip and just like plugged it in, right? Not what the freaking Musk guy's doing.
I'll give you a download.
Yeah, that's what I need, man. I need to find a way to get a chip and plug it into you, but I'm not advocating for that. I'm not advocating for that, right? I want to pitch it over to Lakeisha real quick if she has any final question or comments.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Jeffrey. One thing, Albert, just as I'm going to hold it down for the women, and definitely, for us, how we're persevering throughout, into the economy and really want them to up level and want them to move forward ahead in entrepreneurship. So my question is, for women, I'm all about midlife women elevating out of the funks of the issues of the past, the PTSD and things of that nature for them to rise above. What is something that you can say as far as that format for them to rise above when adversities does arise? Because I know you're all about that. I won't say the word that Joe said, but I will say that the adversities in place for women moving forward ahead. I would like to know.
I get fueled by adversity. When we had the Gulf War, we had women deployed for the first time in droves, and it was hot. They rolled the sleeves, and local culture didn't like that because they had to be covered. Well, we weren't going to be covered, so they phrased our women genderless, and they went out there and kicked ass. Okay, so when my daughter is a single parent, and Jeffrey seen some horses, she rescued 2 thoroughbreds, learning how to ride them, all that stuff that comes with it, and it's very costly, right? And I say, and I'm very proud of her. She has a 16-year-old high school, does acting, does drum, all that good stuff. And they're my priorities. I moved closer to her to be the Uber driver for my grandson. Okay? But this is what I say. Think genderless. Think we're one nation of people. We're a humanity of people. If they see resistance, that's an opportunity to get fueled by resistance. My mentors were those that told me I can't. Otherwise, I had no mentors because I needed to find out who's going to say no to me. I used to train lots of salespeople when I retired at Georgia Smith International, and they were, I had all of the Southwest Pacific area, and they were telling me, man, it's hard to make a sale. I go, so what are you trying to look for? A yes or no? Yes. I go, stop looking for the yes. Look for 7 no's. And they never reach 7 no's. So how you approach your pitch, your sale, your opportunity is accept negativity as you fuel. And I'll use this reality. A light bulb cannot turn on unless the energy flows in the right manner. And a light bulb to go on must have the negative pulse provoke the positive pulse. It's not the other way around. So I'm fueled by negativity. I don't get enough, and I want more because that's what I learn. I learn and relearn. If I had positivity, I'd be dormant. I'll take things for granted, and I'll ignore the for homeless civilians. And the energy that I get is knowing that if my mentors were those that said I can't, look for those type of mentors, because that's what's going to step you up. Accolades, I don't need them. Pat on the back, I don't need them. What I need is an opportunity to give what I know to someone that can do something with it. So send them my way. And I have the trade show, if we have time to mention that, Moreno Valley, October 24th, handshakes, not handouts. Whoever mentions TVC, I will pay for their finance exhibit because that's a handshake. And the handshake is get there, stretch your stuff, and know what to do. I'll be there, okay? But there's IPEC, okay? Those are outdated slides. We got all that populated now. But go to that website. If you don't realize windshield time is part of your effort, then you're not going to get there. I used to drive hours, days from one point to the other point, and it's that drive time that I learned the most, and even screamed my head off. So what am I doing this for? Okay, because you got to release your own pressure. So join me in Moreno Valley, October 24th. IPEC is going to come live from London, who I've never met, other than connect and ask her to represent the next 50 years of my 100-year plan. So to your question, when I see a person, I don't think gender. I think opportunity and to share information, trade information, and let's make a difference to a child 100 years from now.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Albert. Great response.
That's powerful. I don't even know how to end on that, because I mean we can still talk a little more about that because we're talking about generational wealth here. But ladies and gentlemen, I do want to just thank Albert. I think this is going to be one of many shows an episode that we're going to have Albert on here, because he has a lot of knowledge and he's such a humble guy. Like, his day job now, he's an Uber driver for his grandson. But I mean, the man runs multiple businesses and he has this big trade show coming up. And what I love about is Albert's heart here. Like, he doesn't have to be doing this, ladies and gentlemen. He's doing it because he wants to see his community and his country prosper. Right. And it's a major opportunity for us veterans here, 18 million veterans, to get America back on its feet here. Right. Stop letting China get all the glory and all the, the production and manufacturing. How about America gets that glory down and bring back that manufacturing production. Right. And the veterans are going to be the ones to do it. Right. And so he's here today sharing that knowledge, sharing that wisdom. And I just want to thank you again, Albert. And please, ladies and gentlemen, he does have a website called opsforvets.com. If you go down here, or you can scan the QR code. It is his business. He focuses a lot on changing that language, helping your business get into the marketplace, and connecting you with the right opportunities here. That's what Albert's doing today, and I'm just so grateful and thankful for Albert for being on. Hopefully, he could stay on for the after show. For those of you didn't join us for the live show, we do have an after show where you can meet our live guests here and have a Q&A and talk with them live on LinkedIn Audio. But Albert, man, I want to thank you again. Joe, awesome shirt. Keep wearing the beard. Appreciate you for coming here. Lakeisha, appreciate you. And Albert, I just want to say, man, God bless you. And hopefully we get to see you on the after show today. Thank you again for joining us.
You got it. Absolutely. Pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Veterans Club signing out. We will see you guys at the after show.